So I'd like to invite Reverend Christopher Pratt and a representative for Mr. Bob Astley, I think Jennifer's coming up, to come to the podium, please, and a little short ceremony. Both come on up. Okay, and I'll turn it over to Councillor Veith.
I just have a little... I have a short little thing to read about Reverend Pratt. An active community leader, the Reverend Canon Christopher Pratt, has applied his time and talents to several nonprofit and volunteer organizations, ranging from healthcare and the arts to veterans. Congratulations.
Turn it over to Councillor Freeman.
Thank you. So I will read what the Governor General sent, and then I'm just going to add a couple of extra words at the end. So Bob Astley of Waterloo was a model of involved and caring community leadership since 1983. Robert Murray Astley has made a difference by lending much-needed support to a variety of important non-profit organizations dedicated to education, culture, and business. And I just wanted to add that I had the privilege of serving with your dad for many years on the Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony Board. He took a very strong leadership role at a transitional time where the symphony was concerned, and has continued to be a really, really active member of our local arts scene. And it's really exciting to see him receiving this award. And if I could shift to Reverend Pratt for 1 minute, I will say that it's been a real privilege working with you as a part of the Governor General's Leadership Conference. I know that you continue to serve that conference in capacities in terms of interviewing future attendees and the Southwestern Ontario division of trying to find members for that conference. And they are the future leaders of this country. My colleague, Mark Whaley, also is an alumni of the conference. So thank you both for all that you've done.
So, officially, on behalf of Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Julie Payette, Governor-General of Canada, I am pleased to present the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers to Reverend Christopher Pratt and Mr. Bob Astley.
Turn on our TV lights.
Yes.
So, on behalf of Bob Astley, who couldn't be here tonight because he is traveling, wanted to say thank you. Growing up with Bob, I know that it was always important to Bob and his wife Judy to contribute to the community in a meaningful way. As Councillor Freeman said, Bob sent me a few of his volunteer activities that I would say he's most proud of, and the Saving Our Symphony campaign was one of those. As you said, it was in danger of potentially not continuing, so Bob was an integral part of that. That campaign helped to raise $2.5 million for the symphony, and so we're fortunate to still have the symphony here in town today. Bob was also the inaugural chair of the Dean's Advisory Council for the School of Business at Laurier, and he was a member for 9 years there. And he was also the founding member and the first educational vice president for the Black Walnut Toastmasters Club, which I was also a part of. So that was also very important to Bob. And finally, just a few of his fundraising activities. He has most recently helped with the Child Witness Center. with their campaign to create a children and youth advocacy center to help those children and youth who have witnessed a crime to get through that. Also with the symphony, he was a United Way leader when he was with Mutual Life in Clarica from 1993 right through till 2004. And also in 2010, he was recognized as Volunteer of the Year by the Volunteer Action Center of Waterloo Region. So I know he's very pleased to receive this award and would have liked to have been here, but I'm very honored to accept it on his behalf. Thank you.
I value and appreciate the kind words that have been offered in association with this presentation this evening. One of the things that is a hallmark in my life is that I am a Canadian by choice. And so one of the things that I have tried to do over the years is discover ways in which I can say thank you to a country that has welcomed me. I married a Canadian. I thought it was a trend, and so I needed to follow through on that and become a citizen. And so living in the province of New Brunswick, just outside Fredericton, and then in the city of St. John, Windsor, and then up to Owen Sound, and then concluding my parish ministry here in the region is the pathway of some of those places where I've been able to make contacts, connections, and offered support for those people who are engaged in so much volunteer work around those different communities that I've named. And one of the things that this award does is it highlights the way in which Canada says thank you to people who make an effort to serve. And as we have received the awards this evening, there is a very clear understanding that all of us need to have, that there are so many other people whose volunteer service makes a significant difference in the life of our community and our country. So thank you very much for the kind words associated with this presentation. I thank you.
Well, hearty congratulations to you both. So thank you very much on behalf of the Governor General. But we have more. We have more work to do here. We have 3 formal public meetings now to get into. And the first one is, this is a formal public meeting to consider zoning bylaw amendment Z 1815 to remove a holding symbol from 4650 Hickory Street West. Any persons who want further notice of this application, including the passage of any bylaw, should sign the appropriate register in the binder located at the desk at the rear of council chambers. If there's more than one binder, please make sure you're signing the appropriate one. Will clerk please advise council of the method used to give notice and the date notice was given?
Notice was advertised in the Waterloo Chronicle on September 20th, 2018, and mailed or emailed on September 18th and October 26th, 2018, to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property and to public agencies.
I will now ask the planner to give us a brief overview of the presentation. Oh, there is no presentation. You're just here for questions. Do you have questions for John at this time? Seeing none. I will now ask any registered delegations to come forward, of which I see there's none. Is there anyone else present here tonight who wishes to speak to this application? Reverend Pratt, please, would you like? You're still here. You might as well weigh in. Anyone else present here tonight who wishes to speak? Seeing none. If there are no more delegations, this formal public meeting is concluded and this application is now open to council for a motion and a debate. Councillor Henry.
Happy to move it.
Moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Durrell. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That's one. Next one. This is a formal public meeting to consider zoning bylaw amendment Z1816 to remove holding symbol from 254, 256, and 258 Leicester Street. Any persons who want further notice of this application, including the passage of any bylaw, should sign the appropriate register in the binder located at the rear desk of council chambers. There's more than one binder, so please take note of one you're signing. Will the clerk please advise council on the method used to give notice and the dates notice was given?
Notice is advertised in the Waterloo Chronicle on October 25th, 2018, and mailed or emailed on October 26th, 2018, to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property and to all public agencies.
So again, there's not a presentation from the planner, but nonetheless, welcome, Dominic. No registered delegations. Is there anyone else present here tonight who wishes? Anybody want to ask questions of Dominic? Sorry, seeing none. If anyone else present here tonight wishes to speak to this application, Reverend Pratt, last chance. You know, this isn't like church where you have to stay to the end. It's like, come and go as you please here. Seeing none. If there are no more delegations, this formal public meeting is concluded and the application is now open to council for motion and debate. Moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Veith.
Just a brief comment, not related to this parcel in particular, but that it opens up a note. I'd relate to both planning approvals and to transportation, that with this parcel completed and its neighbor behind it on Sunview, there are only a few properties to the immediate north that remain on either side of the street. We do have an intention of punching a walkway through those, and I would expect that staff would negotiate with any future planning applications that come forward on either the Leicester or Sunview Street side to make sure that we secure said walkway, given there are only 3 property opportunities left, and we have not taken that advantage on this one or the one that had come through a number of years earlier. So I just wanted to flag that I expect that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Thank you. Item C. Oh, do we vote? Oh, all those in favor? Moving along too quickly here. Item C. This is a formal public meeting to consider zoning bylaw amendment Z1810, 26 and 28 Dorset Street and 7 Princess Street West, DNA Limited Partnership GP Inc. Any persons who want further notice of the application, including passage of any bylaw, should sign the appropriate register, of which there are many at the back of the council chambers. Will the clerk please advise council on the method used to give notice of the meeting and the dates notice was given?
Notice is advertised in the Waterloo Chronicle on October 25th, 2018, and mailed or emailed on October 26th, 2018, to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, to public agencies, to all persons who signed in or spoke at the informal public meeting held on May 10th, 2018, and to all persons who requested further notice.
Thank you. The planner, Wendy Fisher, will now give a brief overview of the application for the benefit of the people who are still here watching. The first 2 were on holding provisions. So those move along quickly. This is not a holding provision. This one will move along a lot more judiciously.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Jaworski, councillors, and ladies and gentlemen. The formal public meeting before us tonight is for zoning bylaw amendment Z1810, which applies to 26 and 28 Dorset Street, as well as 7 Princess Street West. The subject property is located in Uptown, just west of King Street, between Princess Street West and DuPont Street West. It's approximately 0.16 hectares in size and contains a 5-story mixed-use building along with 2 single-detached dwellings. The surrounding land uses are really a mix. Commercial further east along Princess Street and along King Street. Residential uses both north and northwest of the property, as well as on the southern property line. Further south is both office and commercial uses, and to the west we have Waterloo Park, as well as the historic Carnegie Library and the Waterloo Public Library. In terms of the official plan, the lands are designated commercial, and more specifically Uptown Commercial Core. It provides for a broad range of uses. The lands are also located in the city's primary node, or the Uptown Waterloo Urban Growth Center, which is where we direct a majority of our growth in terms of population and employment. The official plan contemplates a maximum density of 750 bedrooms per hectare and a maximum height of 81 meters. In terms of zoning, the lands are zoned zone change application through zoning bylaw 2018-050. And as you're aware, the new zoning bylaw was put in place September 10th and subsequently appealed to the local planning appeals tribunal, which means that bylaw 1108 remains in force and effect. Speaking of 1108, the lands under this bylaw are zoned commercial 825, which also provides for a broad range of uses, including residential above the first story, with a maximum building height of 75 meters and a maximum density of 250 units per hectare. The application was submitted earlier this year and was to rezone the property to commercial 825 with site-specific provisions. Those provisions include a maximum density of 662 bedrooms per hectare, a reduction to the building line setback from Princess Street, a reduction to the rear yard setback, a reduction to the minimum parking requirements, and modifications to the maximum podium height, tower separation, and tower stepbacks, which are all introduced through the new comprehensive zoning bylaw. As well, the applicant is requesting council to consider a reduced road widening from 3.22 meters to 2.3 meters. The development itself, the applicant is proposing to demolish the 2 single detached dwellings and construct an 11-story mixed-use building containing 54 units or 88 bedrooms, as well as non-residential space and amenity space. So the site in its entirety will contain the two buildings, 65 units, residential units in total, 104 bedrooms, 375 square meters of non-residential space, 679 square meters of amenity space, 47 parking spaces, and 130 bicycle parking spaces. The applicant is also proposing to construct a parking structure. Access to the parking structure would be from Dorset Street to get to the one level above ground, and from Princess Street to access the underground portion. After reviewing the application, and certainly detailed in the staff report, staff are recommending that the lands be zoned uptown commercial core. And with that zone comes a permission of maximum height of 40 meters or 12 stories, and a maximum density of 600 bedrooms per hectare. The proposed height of the building is 37.8 meters, so it does align with the U140 zone. And as you can see by the table at the bottom of the slide, it's a substantial decrease from what the official plan contemplated at 81 meters and the C8 zone at 75 meters. In terms of the density, the site is exceeding the U140 density at a maximum of 600 bedrooms per hectare. But again, this is recognizing that this is a legacy application submitted prior to the new zoning bylaw taking force and effect, and that the density is less than the maximum official plan, that staff are supporting that density. Recommendations are also being made to reduce the rear yard setback from 4.5 meters to 0.1 meters to accommodate the one-story parking structure along the easterly lot line. When the application originally came in, it included a request to waive that road widening, and under that scenario, the lands actually met all the yard setbacks. There was no request for reductions. However, the application and the project has been modified to incorporate a 2.3 meter road widening, and with that road widening or land reduction, it actually changed the lot lines so that Dorset Street became the front line, and this easterly side yard, which was previously the side yard, now becomes the rear yard setback. So nothing changed on the project. It became more of a technicality. As well, the building itself is meeting the 4.5 meter setback. This is just for the one-story parking garage. Under that basis, staff are supporting the rear yard setback. In terms of parking, under the C8 zoning rates, there would be a requirement for 74 parking spaces. Under the U140 rates, the requirement would be for 52 parking spaces. The applicant is proposing a maximum of 47 parking spaces, which is 5 spaces deficient. On that basis, the Parking has been allocated by providing 39 residential parking spaces, 6 visitor parking spaces, and 2 non-residential parking spaces. And staff are supporting this allocation because it is meeting the residential parking spaces within the U1 zone. It's only 1 space deficient in terms of the visitor parking spaces. And in terms of the non-residential spaces, we are recommending that the uses be scoped to uses that are more pedestrian oriented, as well as providing flexibility in the zoning bylaw for additional uses should the applicant wish to pursue other uses that are more heavier on the traffic, or sorry, on the parking side, and there would be flexibility to do so as long as they met the minimum non-residential parking requirements in the U1 zone. As well, we would note that the non-residential space is very small. It helps to activate the street, which is an objective of the official plan. There is a sufficient public transit in the area in terms of ION and GRT, as well as active transportation infrastructure. So again, reasons for our support. In terms of the podium and tower separation, there are no requirements currently in the bylaw 1108. They were introduced through the new zoning bylaw. Again, the fact that this is a legacy application, as well as there are both site and configuration constraints on the property, we are suggesting a maximum podium height of 11.51 meters, that the tower step backs be referred to site plan control, and that there be a reduction in the tower separation along the easterly lot line to 4.5 meters from 11. In terms of the road widening, based on the official plan, there's a requirement for a 3.22 meter road widening. There are also provisions within the official plan that allow for a lesser extent of the road widening to be taken. As I mentioned before, the applicant did originally suggest that council consider waiving the road widening, but has since changed and modified the project to the greatest extent possible and is now providing a 2.3 meter road widening. Staff have reviewed that road widening and can accept that based on the fact that this is not setting a precedent for the city, that there would be a need for tailored engineering, and that the developer would be required to enhance the streetscaping and meet all AODA requirements. And if council supports that 2.3 meter road widening, we also have incorporated, or would recommend, that a reduction to the building line setback be incorporated, just again to be consistent. In terms of implementation, we are recommending, and you have 2 bylaws before you this evening. One is amending 1108 and the other is amending 2018-050. The reason again is because we have 2 bylaws in play right now, and it's to ensure a more seamless transition as we deal with the appeals in front of LPAT. Finally, staff are recommending a number of site plan directives as part of the application. They include a reduction to the road widening of 2.3 meters, the use of silvocels for tree planting, and alternative designs for the canopy, which are currently projecting into the city's right-of-way, enhanced existing building and streetscapes for 26 Dorset Street, which is the existing building, detailed noise assessment, as well as hydro easements, high-quality exterior finishes for the eastern facade, as well as the parking garage, and to demonstrate concerns or give consideration to building access along that easterly line between the 2 properties. A heritage impact statement should the building project change at all. Design strategies to be considered in terms of trying to ensuring that they are articulating the tower from the podium. And finally, that the buildings substantially be consistent with the building elevations that have been provided for the zoning bylaw amendment. That concludes my presentation this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No shade study.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. Questions from council for staff? Councilor Maven, please.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Just so I can understand the 2 questions. One having to do with the road widening. From 3.2 to 2.3, you said that wouldn't set a precedent. Did I hear that right?
That's correct. That's the basis of our decision.
Where did the 3.2 come from then?
The calculation for, through you, Mayor Jaworski, to Councillor Maven, the calculation for the road widening is based on historic center line of Princess Street. So our official plan outlines the road widenings for all of our city's streets. So it's measured from the historic center line. And it's split, so if it's measured from that, determined, and then it's split so that 50% of the road widening is taken typically from the one side of the street and 50% is taken from the other side of the street.
Okay, I'm going to nod my head like I understand now. Now, on the rear yard setback, and you said it's related to the front yard, to the road widening, but from 4.5 meters to 0.1 meter, that's quite a difference.
Again, through you, Mayor Jaworski. The front yard is defined as being the shortest lot with all the properties. It's going to get a little bit technical. When the road widening, when the property was not, when there was no road widening taken, Princess Street was the front yard, which meant the other side, if I can actually flip to the site plan. So originally, Princess Street was the front yard, and the southerly lot line was considered the rear yard. And you can see here, they're meeting the rear yard setback. But because they're recommending or proposing a 2.3 road widening along Princess Street, it actually reduced the amount of land so that now Dorset Street is becoming the front yard because it's the shortest of the two. This becomes the flankage, and then the easterly side yard now becomes the rear lot line. So even though nothing changed in terms of the project, just the lot lines changed, because originally this was the side yard setback, and under the C8 zoning there is a 0 meter setback for side yards. So they didn't have to make any changes. But because now this is the rear yard setback and a 4.5 meter setback is required, that is why it's coming. We're requesting a a reduction to 0.1.
Okay, so if we reduce the road allowance or road clearance, whatever you want to call it, by about 1 meter, and we take the rear yard and we reduce it by 4 meters, something doesn't balance there. Are you saying that the 0.1 meter setback in the rear yard is no longer required?
It's only a function of having to take the 2.3 meters that reduces the frontage along Dorset Street that forms that to be the front yard, and that therefore opposite that would become the rear yard at that side yard, along the easterly lot line.
Is the rear yard then still 4.5 meters? I guess that's the
minimum requirement under the bylaw.
And it's going to stay that way?
Correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
Further questions? This is strange. After four years of council, we have two come up on the same day about this, the flankage and front yard. Councillor Durrell.
Thank you. To you, Mayor. Okay, couple questions, if I could, just beam them off. Okay, so actually I was wondering about the road widening, and there's very few buildings on there that are going to, this is really one of the last buildings to be constructed, and the building beside it, which is the Loloan Lobby Bar, did they also go with that road widening? What I'm wondering is there a possibility this road widening might actually happen, or how does that work?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, you're referring to the north of the property? Mm-hmm. On the other side of Princess Street?
Yeah.
Okay. So a decision was made to waive that road requirement, and it was based on the fact that at the corner is the Hoother Hotel, which is a designated cultural heritage resource. So taking a road widening where it wouldn't be feasible because of the fact that it's going to be protected and there for a long term. So
wouldn't Jane Bond be the same here?
So this is where Jane Bond would be.
Yeah, Jane Bond is right up to as well.
Right. So this, where it says existing building on the site plan,
Yeah.
this is where Jane Bond is.
Yeah.
So yes, if they were to, again, if there were ever changes made to the property, it is a possibility, recognizing, of course, that there is a zero lot line and it's an existing building that currently is showing within that area. If they were to come in, if that lot was, for instance, consolidated with other lots on Long King Street with a redevelopment, then yes, the city would be in a position to take a road widening from that property as well.
So what happens then, because the sidewalk has to then align with the Jane Bond sidewalk, and so is this just extra landscaped in front of here, because it could be 20, 30, 40, 50 years before that gets developed? So what does that look like then for?
So through you, Mayor Jaworski, the applicant will be required to transition that sidewalk from their site back out to where the existing sidewalk is in front of Jane Bond for the time being.
One of my concerns when this came for informal was what it would look like if I'm walking on Princess Street and looking at this area. What did we make any strides there as far as we're not staring at a garage door? What will it look like now?
Again, through you, Mayor Jaworski, it may be a question as well for the applicant, who I understand will be presenting afterwards, but staff certainly did take a look at that and have included a directive in terms of moving forward at the site plan, that it be addressed at site plan.
Okay. There was one of the things that you talked about was the tree canopy, and I wrote it down, alternative design for canopy protection. What does that mean in English?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, the canopy is actually referring to the existing canopy that's built into the building itself. I'm not sure if I have a...
So you're talking about not a tree...
Not a tree canopy. It's this black.
That's how I think is a tree canopy.
Oh,
now.
very
Hilarious.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So yes, it's the black canopy that actually is currently on the existing building right here, and that is actually encroaching into the city's right of way. So we're looking at alternative.
So
designs.
we're saying we want to get rid of that.
We've asked the applicant to consider alternative designs that would be incorporated into the new building, changes to the existing building as well as incorporating into the new building.
I'm curious because in our Uptown Public Realm strategy and some of our Uptown documents, we are saying canopies are nice or they are attractive for pedestrian scale. So I imagine most canopies will likely go on to encroach onto city property. So how does that work out so that we're actually creating a safe space for people to walk and perhaps get out of the rain or snow, and create like that, especially for that canopy when it is a tall building. Now all of a sudden we're all down at around 8 feet. So are there ways that we can encourage canopies instead of discourage them?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, I think the ideal would be to have a site where there are canopies incorporated into the building, but the canopies are within the sites themselves, so that there is the opportunity to shield and provide people from the elements.
RAP has information as well.
Yeah, because this building's been there for a long time, so.
Certainly, in addition to what Wendy was saying, is that to have a canopy does not rely on the zoning permissions that are being granted tonight. If through discussions in site plan and it's determined that the best course is to have a canopy extend over the public right-of-way, that can be done through an encroachment agreement. That would come back to council, but it does not rely on the decision tonight.
Okay, I understand that, but this is the only time I get to talk about this again, Cam. Okay, so you're saying to me, talk to the developer about the garage doors on Princess, and talk to me more about this tower setback, because I know that's part of the new zoning bylaw, and so we're saying we're giving them relief on this. But I actually want to know what it would look like if this one wasn't tagged as a ZC.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, the tower step back, there is a tower step back.
Sorry, separation.
Oh, separation?
Pardon me, yeah.
So the tower separation
is it setback or separation? Is that the one?
So tower separations are how much space is in between.
And is that one of the
towers.
things we're giving them relief on from the 2018 bylaw? No?
We are from the easterly lot line.
Yeah, okay.
And then the tower step back is being deferred to be discussed at site plan.
Saw that. So talk to me about separation, because that's one of the things that I was curious about when we were doing the 2018 bylaw. And so that when it came up in this development, I wanted to see what it would actually look like. So can you tell me what?
Well, through you, Mayor Jaworski, the tower step separation is the minimum requirement is 11 meters within the new bylaw.
Yeah.
We are providing them with relief so that is reduced down to 4.5 meters. And the primary reason for that relief is simply because it is that legacy application that get in sort of before the new zoning bylaw was completed, and I believe
Mr. Cotter has further information.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, to Councillor Durrell. In addition to Ms. Fisher's comments, the other consideration is that the property is abutting lands along the main street of King Street. So those lands are restricted to a maximum height of 16 meters.
Okay.
So in that case, this setback or the relief that's being granted to the easterly lot line will never see, or it's not contemplated planning-wise to see another tower to the east. So again, it provides some rationale to reduce that setback from the standard 11 down to something less, because we don't anticipate another tower in proximity to this particular building.
Okay. Okay, so this is, even though it is a ZC, and this was, let's say it was coming fresh under the new bylaw, there would have been, what you just said, some relief because of King Street? Is that what you're saying?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, to Councillor Durrell. Again, this is the scenario where we talked about through the comprehensive bylaw that not all properties are going to fit evenly within that mold, and there will be instances where some applications may be made to suggest some relief or reduction to some of those tower separation setbacks based on context. In this case, the context is the property is essentially abutting the main street, which has a restricted height of no more than 4 stories or 16 meters. So to the east, we don't anticipate any towers because of the main street designation. And as such, it's a scenario where context would allow council to consider a reduction in this instance. And that part of that played into staff's recommendations before council this evening.
Okay, thanks so much.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Frederick, for the report. Registered delegations. First up, Trevor Hawkins. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski, members of council. I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Councillors Durrell, Whaley, Burke, and Maven for their service. As a resident of Waterloo, I thank you for being members of council for the last 4 years for some of you, 8 years, and even longer for others. So thank you very much for that. I'd also like to thank Wendy and Joel Cotter for working with us so hard on this project. It's been a long time getting here, and we're very excited to present this proposal. We think it's a terrific building and a great addition to the Uptown. So one of the things, Wendy did cover an awful lot of things in her presentation, but I just wanted to pull council back up and look at the high level. One of the reasons why we have an urban growth center is because of the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and then drilling down even further into the regional official plan. And you take all those documents and you line them up and you produce the Uptown Waterloo Urban Growth Center, and a project like this fits very well within all those documents, and it achieves many of the objectives of not only Waterloo's plan, but the region and provincial planning policy framework too. So just for those councillors who maybe don't walk as far north on King Street as this part of Uptown, here's some photos. So this particular photo here is the 2 dwellings that are subject to the application, and we can see the Jane Bond building in the background. This is, of course, the Hoother Hotel, so just showing you that the buildings on the other side of the street, which largely make up the 14 Princess building and the Hoother Hotel, are located very close to the sidewalk. If we look at the Jane Bond building, so I'm standing almost at the corner of Dorset and Princess and looking down towards King Street, you can see the Jane Bond building is almost literally right on the sidewalk. And then there's a couple of buildings that go all the way down to King Street, and they have virtually the same street wall that's right at the sidewalk. There's almost no, you walk out the door and you're right on the sidewalk. And then this picture is, we're just standing next to the existing 5-story building looking up Dorset. So one of the things that we're hoping to achieve through this project is to upgrade the streetscape, not only on Princess Street, but also on Dorset Street. As we head north of Princess on Dorset in front of the 14 Princess building, they've done a terrific job of designing that streetscape, and we're hoping to mirror that on the south side. So some imagery just showing that the building, it's well articulated at the top of the building. It has a terrific roof line. You can see that the building actually slides in a fair bit as you go further and further up until you finally reach the top, and it's only got 2 penthouse units on the top. So it actually gets further and further away from the street as you go up on both facades. This is the Dorset Street facade, as we can see above the 6th floor. It actually recesses. And then again, as you go up to the 10th floor and the 11th floor, it recesses even further. So it does have a fair bit of articulation. It's not a flat wall building, but it is a small building. It's only 19 meters wide on Dorset Street and 37 meters roughly on 36 meters on Princess Street. So way, way below the new regulations in terms of tower footprint and horizontal tower dimension in the new zoning bylaw. Councillor Durrell, here are the images I hope you're looking for in terms of what we just the reason I couldn't give these to Wendy is because we literally got them finished this afternoon. So Wendy's unfortunately seeing them for the first time too, as is Joel. But we did talk with staff a lot about how important it was to dress up that facade, make sure that while we recognize you have to get into the building in this location, we took a bit of our cue from the 14 Princess building with its Dorset Street entrance, and we've created, this is actually the driveway, and then this is sort of a door with windows. So they're not 2 driveways. So we've tried to use a lot of glazing to make it look like part of the main facade. So we have a lot of glazing as we go from the corner, a lot of windows where the commercial uses would be, and then we've tried to carry that glazing forward down the street on Princess Street. So it's a welcoming walking environment once you are, no matter which way you're heading on the street, you're still getting activity at grade, recognizing that we do have to have a way for vehicles to get in and out of the building. One of the other things that you alluded to, Councillor Durrell, is the sort of jog in the sidewalk that we'll have to accommodate. So if we look at this image, we've put the landscape buffer between the sidewalk, or between the curb and sidewalk, so that the sidewalk is removed away from the street rather than a curb-face sidewalk, which is what we have today. We have a bit of a landscape separation to give the pedestrians a bit more comfort, so a little bit more physical separation from the street. But once you get to the Jane Bond property, because that building is not giving a road widening today, we do have to jog the sidewalk back out. So we've tried to align it as best we can to bring it back out. There'll be an exercise through site plan, but eventually there will have to be a transition in the sidewalk, and we'll work with staff to make that, to try and maximize the landscaping while still accommodating barrier-free access onto the existing sidewalk area. And then if we look at it's a little bit hard to see in this image, but if you know the area, there's banding on the sidewalk on the other side of Princess Street, and we're hoping if staff is willing to replicate that banding on the other side of the sidewalk as well. So we support the staff recommendation, and we'd like to thank Wendy and Joel for working with us to bring us this far. As I alluded to, it does really implement a lot of the provincial documents, the city's official plan, the regional official plan. It does support transit. It's within 300 to 500 meters, depending on which of the 2 uptown stops you're going to walk to. So it's very close, very walkable. King Street has excellent active transportation facilities. This stretch of Princess Street from Dorset to King is only 81 meters long. So if you actually leave this building, you've got about 60 meters to walk to get to King Street, where there's all kinds of ways to get around the city. We think it's a context-sensitive, it's a good fit for the neighborhood. It does have a variety of unit sizes, so there are 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units in the building, so we think it will appeal to a broad demographic, and it will offer sort of a unit type and a unit mix that in a smaller building that would be something new for this part of Uptown, we hope, in terms of the condominium market. So we think it's a great fit, and we're excited to present it to council for hopefully for approval. Thank you, Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Hawkins? Councilor Durrell.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, to Mr. Hawkins. Great. I'm thankful to see what the garage looks like. What I'm not clear about is how, like, when I look at, if I'm standing at Prince, or if I'm at Jane Bond, can I actually get between the two buildings, or are they so close that, like, how close are those two buildings together? And is that a safety issue that we need to worry about, or?
So through you, Mayor Jaworski, I think our building, so again, it will be...
yeah, it looks pretty tight, but I don't know actually what that looks like.
So the tower is actually 4.5 meters from Jane Bond, so there's no issue with the tower. It's just this one level of parking that, as you go up Dorset Street, it's basically as if you had a bungalow dwelling in terms of its physical separation. So our structure is 30 centimeters from our lot line. I'm not sure exactly how close Jane Bond is, but there would be 2 feet maybe between the two structures to allow for access and maintenance. That's something that we're going to obviously review through detailed site planning
this
matter.
Is the last chance.
So we're aware that the structure we build will have to be of a high quality such that it requires minimal maintenance, and that Jane Bond can still access. I think there's a hydrometer and a gas meter on that side of the building, but it's not a residential building, so it's not like it's a bedroom window or anything like that.
Okay, the picture on the top, we're looking at the canopy.
Right.
Is this one of the canopies in question, or it's just the one on the old legacy building?
So through you, Mayor Jaworski, the canopy on the existing building does project into the road allowance. I'm not sure how that happened, but it does.
Yeah.
The canopy that we had originally proposed for the new building would also project into the road allowance. But the imagery that we've prepared for this, for tonight, the new renderings do not.
Oh, okay. So how far out would that go? Because it's kind of part of the design, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a little deceiving because the second floor is actually 0.9 meters back.
Okay.
So the canopy projects because the second floor is set. It looks like it's projecting, well, it does project because the second floor is set back further than the first floor. So it projects about 20 to 30 centimeters above that sort of stairway parking structure if we look in this area. So it does provide cover for those who would be using the stairs, and then about 20 to 30 centimeters above that. That's about the space from our property line post road widening to this sort of garage staircase. It's about 25 centimeters. So the canopy will project that 25 centimeters out to the lot line, but not beyond it at this point, unless it's something that staff and council are willing to entertain later on.
Okay. It looks like you're asking for a whole bunch of different things that could be on the commercial floor.
One of the things we talked about with staff was we recognize that we're seeking a lower commercial parking rate. So staff had proposed a number of uses that they felt would work with that lower parking rate, and we're agreeable with that. But we did want the opportunity that if we wanted to expand those uses beyond that list, as long as we met the bylaw requirement in the U1 zone, that we could still incorporate those uses into the building. So that sort of approach gives the owner sort of certainty over, if you want the lower parking rate, this is what you get. If he feels that he wants to pursue one of the other uses that are in the U1 zone, then he recognizes that he will have to alter his mix of residential and commercial such that he provides more parking for the commercial.
Okay, great. It would be great to see something that would have people coming in and out. Just not a nightclub is the only one I don't like on this one.
I don't know that Wendy included that on the list.
Just not a nightclub. Okay, I think, let me just go through here quickly. Yeah, thank you very much.
Further questions for Mr. Hawkins? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, seeing one, Councilor Maven.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Thanks for the kind words, Trevor. Come on back up, please. To teach you for being nice to me at the start. When I look at the artist rendering, the 2.3 meters, right now if you go onto Princess, with parking on the street, basically becomes a one-lane street. And I'm wondering, is this the way it really is going to end up? You're going to have this sort of boulevard with the plantings and so on? Or is it going to be parking there and then the street's going to be wider to allow for two-way traffic?
I do have a cross-section. I think Wendy showed it as well. So we did prepare some cross-sections of what Princess Street could look like after the road widening, and using sort of a 13.58 meter road allowance versus the 11.5 is what you have today. You can get 2 travel lanes, a parking lane, and then we've got room for landscaping and a 1.8 meter sidewalk. So we did look at those dimensions. We talked with our landscape architects to make sure that we could fit landscaping that could support trees in the boulevard, and we can do that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. I don't have any other registered delegations on here. Is there anyone else present here tonight who wishes to speak to this application? Seeing none. If there are no more delegations, this formal public meeting is concluded and the application is now open to council for a motion and debate. Councillor Durrell.
Madam Clerk, shall I read Bill
you're done
73
with the
wording?
motion.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Having considered all written and oral submissions from the public and stakeholders and considered the professional opinions of planning staff, Council approves zoning bylaw amendment Z 1810, 2628 Dorset and 7 Princess Street West in accordance with Section 8 of the IPPW 2018-065 for the reasons specified in Section 7 of the report.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Whaley. Further discussions, commentary?
All I'd like to say is something really exciting is happening in that neck of the woods around Princess and Dorset, and I think that this is a really beautiful development. So thank you very much to Trevor and the developer and Wendy for all your work you've done on this project. You know, we've been talking a long time about moving or trying to see Uptown become more than a single street, which is King Street. And so when we see investment happening off of it on Dorset, Princess, and other areas, it creates a wider Uptown, which I think is really exciting. And I'm really excited about the streetscape that is around it, and this idea that you can walk off King Street and still feel safe and still have things to do. And it's also a great way to get to the library or Carnegie Hall and all the beautiful things that we have in Uptown. So I think this is an amazing little gateway piece connecting our Uptown. And I hope that council will pass this as one of my last things I get to do.
Still one more meeting, lots to do there too. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's all of us. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Frederick. Frederick, next time we'll have more questions. With that, we'll move on to special new business. Does anybody have any special new business, Councillor Maven? Please go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mayor Jaworski. This will be my last council meeting. We're off on a family vacation. The American side of our family has Thanksgiving down in Florida, so that's where we're heading tomorrow. And I just wanted to thank everybody. I know at times I've really tried your patience, and I want to thank you for that patience when you exhibited it. And when you didn't, that's just the way it goes. It's been different than I would have thought. I was hoping to get, when I came in, I had some things I wanted to do. Didn't get anything done, but I still have those things I want to do. I would probably come back, not as a delegation, but maybe an article or two in the Chronicle every now and then, just so you can see my name. And I'll get an old picture so I can put it up there. I said to Mark Whaley before, and Councillor Whaley, he's been on council a long time. I remember when he came in, things weren't so good. And but he's done an awful lot of good work, and I just wanted to publicly thank him for that too. And just, I got to share this because I've shared it with Councillor Durrell already. Sandra, I said to Angela, you know, you going to miss me? Why? You're never here. So look forward to it. She's a great companion. And,
I have to clarify, I said, I got over missing you a long time ago.
But thank you all very much.
Thank you, and all the best in your health. I see the walking's going a lot better, so that's good. It's getting there. That's good. Wonderful. And in the business, Councillor Freeman.
Through you, Mayor Jaworski, I hope you'll indulge me just a couple minutes because I won't be with you on the 26th. We booked, Peter and I need to get away, and it's been a long time. And 2 years ago, I actually didn't think there'd be a council meeting the last Thursday in November after an election because there isn't normally. So I did want to publicly...
The clerk and I run a tight ship.
I did want to publicly thank Melissa and Mark and Bob and Brian. It's really hard to say goodbye. You really come to know people in 4 years and in 8 years, and it's super hard to see like half of my office packed up. I'm just saying, and I just I really value all the work that you've done, and nobody does this job for the paycheck, because if they did, they would be sorely disappointed. And I just somebody asked me one time, like, how is it that Waterloo Council functions? And I said, we come together, we storm a little in the council chambers, but we're still good to go out and have a coffee together because we're professional enough to do our work here as a council and then still be friends and acquaintances outside, celebrating birthdays and grandchildren being born and all of those wonderful things. So I wanted you all to know how much I valued the time I've come to work with you. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, would anybody like to move some bylaws, Bob? Sure. Moved by Councillor Maven, seconded by Councillor Burke. All those in favor? Okay. Well, who would like to call today? You want to call today? Councillor Durrell always does, so I'll go with Councillor Durrell, Councillor Maven. Calling it a day. All those in favor of adjournment? It's us. Thank you.